When you look back on that first project, what was the main lesson that carried with you over these next few decades as you built your career?
I mean, I think that, the lesson that I learned is that, that if you plan ahead, you get good people around you, then you can execute very well. And it's all about the people that you surround yourself with, and far less about me. That building, once I had conceived it, the concept of doing that deal, it was about the people around me who were going to execute it. So my lesson was to bring on the best people possible to help me do that. But at the same hand, I was building for a purpose. I mean, I knew I was breaking some barriers. I didn't want to let the mayor down, and I also felt an obligation to provide opportunities on the construction side. So I made for black businesses. So I made the contractor commit to 35% of all of the work on the project to be by black businesses.
That's right.
It's going to come from them. It ain't going to come from me. I'm one person. But to give everybody an understanding of the magnitudes. Remember that $100 million deal we talked about? Let's say we get it financed and we're successful. The building is an apartment building. It's open and it's performing. Well, our $3.5 million is sitting into that building. So where do we get the next $3.5 million to go and do the next $100 million building? Or if we need 7 or 10 million, where do we get that money to do a bigger building? We have to get it where the same 111,000 white developers get it, private equity and venture capital. But that money is allocated by Wall Street white-owned firms, and they bring their inherent bias with them. And they allocate that capital to their friends, not on a meritorious basis. They do it based on relationships. We have to take control of our own money and have to demand something better. We cannot be focused on, okay, we're gonna have a rent freeze of 5%, right? We should be saying, how do we make more black millionaires? How do we make more black billionaires?
When you look at the progress that we have made, and let's just point out, I mean, for all the challenges we have, we've made a ton of progress here. What is the biggest change for the younger generation? Is it going to come at kind of the collegiate level? Do you need more public partnerships, public-private partnerships for new graduates? What sort of lays the foundation for that next generation of Don Peebles?
I think a couple of different ways. So first of all, I mean, education. We need to have financial literacy taught early on. We have to encourage our children, our nieces, our nephews, our friends, and others. We have to encourage them to read about finance, read about entrepreneurship. We have to go and get educated and go into financial services and financial industries and be willing, once we get into those positions, to actually do something to advance our community forward. I mean, a lot of times we have people who are black going into these positions of authority, but aren't willing to take any chance or perceived chance of providing opportunities to us. The second thing is that we got to be more. By the way, if we work together, we'd already have tremendous progress, right? And what's good here is everybody here is together and working together. So we got to figure out how to do that. Secondly, we should be willing to pursue our entrepreneurial dreams, to go for those dreams, to go and pursue entrepreneurship, and to take our shot, and not be afraid to take our shot, and to try. And by the way, an entrepreneur is someone who jumps off of a building, the top floor of a skyscraper, and figures out how to build a parachute on the way down.
I'm surprised you haven't gone into politics yet, because I mean, the way you articulate this, have you ever considered running for public office?
Yeah, I did. I considered running for mayor of DC and mayor of New York, mainly because I don't like this unfair system. I think that America, while it's a great country and has given all of us a lot of opportunities, it is unfair. Because it's unfair when you think about the fact that the capital is allocated so disproportionately against us. It's unfair that we have to bat 1,000 when most people become billionaires batting 2 and 300. And so I was interested to go into politics because I think more people ought to do it and go in there and be willing to change things. And so, you know, I'm a big believer that the power of change is within us. I am the most unlikely entrepreneur, and I think that's something we should just touch on. I was unlikely to be an entrepreneur.
You are a college dropout.
Yes.
Yet here you are, a billionaire, more or less.
Yes.
I don't want to shortchange you by any money here. But it's worth clapping too. I mean, we talk about the best and brightest people out there didn't go to college or dropped out of college. When you sort of look at your own life, and I want to say something. You talked about having to bat 1,000, and I've heard you in past interviews when you talk about your real estate projects, the idea of building with a mission or a purpose, the symbolism of what you're building, making a statement with those buildings. Why is that important? Is that because you want to make sure people know that this is a Don Peebles project, that people to know that this is what we're capable of?
Yeah, I want people to understand what we're capable of. I mean, my grandfather, who I'm named after, was a janitor in a public school system in rural Virginia where my father and aunts couldn't attend because of segregation. My maternal grandfather was a hotel doorman. My father was an auto mechanic. My mother started off as a secretary. I was totally unexpected to be an entrepreneur, but through hard work, opportunity, mainly provided by a black mayor, I got a chance to get ahead and get my shot. And so I think it's important that everybody understands that it's not that difficult. It's hard, but it isn't complicated. Science is complicated, business is not complicated. And so it requires hard work, determination, and continued sustained effort, and a passion for it. And I just couldn't work for money. I mean, after a point, it didn't do anything for me. It didn't make me feel like, hey, I had accomplished something. And so I get much more out of accomplishing things and knocking down barriers, and also serving as the idea of what's possible. Because anybody in here could do what I do. They just have to pursue it and be prepared for it and get an opportunity.
Knocking down those barriers. Can you talk a little bit about